Okay. So to start, I think it's always best to start with just you introducing yourself and your music, and then I have a few questions, and then I like to just open it up to have a conversation.
All right, cool. So, yeah, let me just cool. My name is Harrison Dolan. Uh, I am a singer-songwriter living in New York City. I went to college at University of Rhode Island for jazz and philosophy. And I got an album coming out next year that's almost finished, but not quite there yet. And I got a single coming December 24th as well. And yeah,
Yeah, that's really exciting. So,
it is. I just got to put in those final steps to finish it.
yeah, and an album is a lot of work. It's a long process. So,
It 100% is. Yeah.
yeah. All right. So my first question is just like, who are your biggest influences musically?
Hmm. Well, that's a good question. So I play guitar, but when I went to college, I studied the drums, and I'm kind of like a jack of all trades, multi instrumentalist type of guy. But um, John Mayer was one of the first people who, when I saw him live, it made me really want to pursue music. And Joni Mitchell, just I think Joni Mitchell is like a very beautiful lyricist, songwriter. Her voice is beautiful. Like, I don't know. I could name a whole lot of influences like Steely Dan and John Coltrane, Weezer as well, David Bowie. David Bowie's big, less for his music, even though I really like that, and more just for his attitude and, being himself no matter what anybody thinks, and all the effort that he would put in.
Yeah, I mean, those are some really great influences for sure.
Thank you.
So my second question is kind of just who or what inspires you?
Um, so to start music, I was inspired by my dad, who is in the other room. Actually, he's a flute player, and he fronted his own jazz group. He was a jazz musician in New York in like the 70s and especially the 80s. And he kind of ingrained music in my head at a very young age. So I started taking drum lessons when I was in the third grade and kept that going for 10 plus years. And then I decided to study music in college after a rough freshman year. And from there on, I started picking up other instruments and writing songs and stuff. But even though drumming is not my primary focus when I perform my solo songs, I play drums in a band called Grizzlies as well. Just starting me at a very young age, learning that helped set me on the right path. So family is a big inspiration for me.
Yeah, that's always like really nice to kind of hear and just see like when someone is kind of inspired by the people around them.
Yeah, it's not something I take for granted. Um, Not by any stretch. I'm very lucky.
Yeah. So my next question is just kind of what are your goals going into the new year in 2022?
Hmm. Well, for starters, just to put the album out, that's actually not the only album I'm working on at the moment, but it's definitely the one I'm putting forth the most effort into. And then I have a bunch of other songs. So just to start working on those as well and start priming those to come out on a second album. But play more shows, start establishing a loyal fan base, get more than one Patreon subscriber, which I currently have. That's patreon.com/HRDD. I want to start putting more effort into that and my SoundCloud and Bandcamp and Spotify, and, all of that stuff.
Yeah. It's always a lot of like behind the scenes work being an artist that I don't think a lot of people realize. So
Yeah. I mean, that's how you make the art,
yeah,
no matter what medium.
yeah. So my next question is my favorite one to ask, and it's just kind
Okay.
of how does your life influence your art, and how does your art influence your life?
That's a good question. Um, so I'm chewing a cough drop. Referring specifically to my upcoming album, it's kind of thematically reminiscent on an old love that I lost a long time ago. So it's kind of looking back on it from 5, 6 years later and a whole different perspective. And it's kind of channeling just the way that I felt throughout many years. Um, and it's making the art has become a very good outlet for maybe complicated emotions or just things that I would like to say to this person, but I don't have the opportunity to. And the art in turn inspires me in my daily life to just cope with it and move on, you know?
Yeah.
uh, yeah. Uh, it's definitely helped me out in a lot of not great mental situations being an artist.
Yeah. I think that's one thing a lot of artists can relate to is that sometimes it's easier to put whatever we're feeling and whatever we're going through into our art. Because I know I do that a lot. It's kind of how I process a lot of things. So yeah.
Uh, it feels like most of the singer songwriters who I see just playing around the city at the events that I go to, you know, we're all kind of wearing our hearts on our sleeve. Um, I tend to do that very directly uh, in a lot of songs, but most of the music that I'm working on isn't out yet. So I'm excited for people to be able to finally listen and hear it the way it's intended to be and make their own conclusions from it, you know?
Yeah. And it sounds like it's something that people will connect to in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, sometimes the songwriter isn't the one that determines what the song is about.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I only have like one more official question.
Okay.
And it's just kind of like, what do you have in the works? Anything you'd want to plug? I know you've talked about your album, but if you want to talk more about it and just, yeah.
All right, cool. So to start, I play drums in a band called Grizzlies. We got a period at the end. I am excited because we have 2 songs completed, should be arriving in the next couple months. And then in January, I'm going back to record an EP with them. And as far as the solo work is concerned, I mean, I'm excited to improve, to put this out. And it's a weird feeling because like right now, like I don't have an album to my name. I feel like it's going to change a lot about just the level that I'm on and the way that people perceive me and all that. I put a lot of hard work into it. So I'm excited to send that out. It's called Cloud Like. And probably February or maybe March, April, it'll come out. But I got a song called Leaning on You, which comes out on Christmas Eve. I think that'll be a couple days before this releases.
Yeah.
But that is one of my favorite songs that I've written. It has my friend Petch on it, who actually just put out a song today called Better. We went to high school together, and it's just, I haven't seen her in person in a long time, but it's really great that music is able to keep the whole bond together over the years. So I'm excited to work with more talented musicians. Definitely. I have a lot of collaborators on the album, including like Jesse the Tree, who's a rapper from Providence, Rhode Island. Um, just working with people that can help me get to the next level. and playing around New York City because I just moved here in June and there's so much that I haven't discovered about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's all really exciting. I'll definitely be sure to like tune in when everything drops and
Thank you.
give it a listen and share. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So this is kind of the part where I like to open it up to anything you'd want to talk about or want an audience to know. Just because I feel like as artists, we don't always have the space to talk to each other. So
Yeah. The New York Knicks lost like really bad today against the Nuggets, and like they do it to me every time, and I don't get it. But that's that's a big part of my personality. Is like I love sports. I love I love the Knicks specifically and the Mets, and like I don't know. It's so hard getting like your expectations raised like every couple days, and then shot down. But I don't know. I wanted to vent about that because I want people to know that about me. But also, you just put out an album, or you're putting out an album, something like that.
Yeah, it will be out on the 17th. I just announced like the track list. So
Nice. Have you put out any singles from it?
yes, there were like 3 singles and now the album.
Nice. What has like your album creation process looked like?
It's so I've kind of been working on like this album all year, almost pretty much all
Hmm.
year. Um, and it was a lot of like going back and forth between what I wanted it to sound like, the feelings I wanted on it, like the journey kind of thing. And that required a lot of like going back and being like, okay, well, this song actually doesn't fit anymore. I need to kind of move this around.
Yeah, there's so much like meticulousness involved in planning your track list and the order of it and what you have to leave on the cutting room floor. How did you write the songs? Like, did you work with a producer? Or did you write them on guitar or piano?
So I am kind of a producer. I produced most of the songs on the album.
Nice.
But there were also like 2 other producers that I worked with that I know that are great. So like I did there. I think there's a song with each of them on this album, and then maybe some songs with them that aren't on this album, but I do still plan on like releasing and working on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of a combination. Yeah.
That's cool. I know for me, like a lot of this album's work, I think all of it was written on guitar and recorded by me in my home studio setup, and which is honestly just a Scarlett interface and some monitors and a laptop and microphones,
Yeah.
like you can get started for relatively cheap, not it's do you feel like there's a barrier to entry for like making your own singles, EPs, albums?
Honestly, I don't think so because I feel like a lot of the people I know, like I have a friend of mine who's like he's doing really well with his music, and I'm so proud of him. But I know like he's really been working from just like a home studio setup that he has. It hasn't been like always like this big getting in a studio type of thing.
Yeah.
And I know like I always record in like my little setup that I have in my dorm room right now, and yeah.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm very intrigued as to like how music's going to change in the next couple of years because it's already looking very different from like when you had like Katy Perry, Lady Gaga, like all of them on the top of the charts. Like, no, there's more room for people to just come in and make waves.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting.
Yeah. And I don't know, I think it allows for us to connect with more artists, with more people.
So,
Well, I feel like in this kind of like streaming age where we can do a lot of it independently, there's I feel like there's more people, there's more artists that you can discover and that you can be along for like that journey of them growing and just different things like that.
it's so weird because like there's so many pros and cons to the streaming age. Like you said, it's more accessible, but you're being paid much less than if you got a record deal back in the 80s.
Yeah.
Most of your music was sold through vinyl and tapes and stuff like that. But even then, like musicians have always been unfairly compensated
Yeah.
for further studio releases, in my opinion. But I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's like an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I like the whole streaming age very much, but to be successful, you got to adapt. I mean, I don't mind streaming, but I don't like that you have to craft the song around minute long snippets of it.
Mm.
Because most of the time you post your song on social media and the people that hear it don't hear the full thing how you intended it. It's almost like a commercial
Yeah.
for your song.
Yeah. Especially when you're starting the preview, like a new release, that deciding what is the best part that's going to make people want to hear it is always it's kind of intimidating.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, the most successful artists kind of adapt to that. uh that isn't true, but like you just have to take it into consideration, like no matter what genre you are. I don't know, social media like completely influences the music industry now, and in the grand scheme of things that's a recent development.
Yeah. I actually had a conversation about that with my friend yesterday about how
Hmm.
not only do you have to be like an artist, but you also have to be someone who knows how to work social media and is like active. And that can be exhausting.
Yeah. No, a lot of musicians that you meet on the local level completely ignore the business side of it. And I understand why, because you might not even notice that there's that whole element to it. You might just be focused on the music. And in principle, that's great. Um, and if a lot of artists don't need a bunch of people listening to their songs in order to be happy with their release.
Yeah.
But the ones that do, if they are active on social media and use strategies and stuff like that, then that's how they achieve their goals. Their goal isn't just to put out a good song, it's to put out a good song and get the numbers from it.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody in particular either. It's just like the way social media has influenced us.
Yeah. Like it definitely varies from like artist to artist what their goals are. So
Yeah. Uh, sorry. No, it does. Who are some of your favorite artists that have released music recently?
um so definitely I'm always a big Bryson Tiller fan. I love Bryson Tiller.
Is he a
And
country artist?
no, R&B.
R&B. Okay, it's
Yeah.
kind of a country type name though.
Yeah.
But I've heard of Bryson Tiller.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Bryson Tiller. So he put out an album recently or something?
He actually put out like a little Christmas album a week
Really?
ago. Yeah. And like I don't think he's
Okay.
ever done Christmas music, so that was like, okay.
The only Christmas album I like is Tyler the Creator's Grinch EP. I think it is. That's not true, but Christmas music is usually a miss for me. Even though Christmas is great,
Yeah.
but like it's rare that I hear Christmas songs that I actually vibe with, you know?
Yeah. Especially like I do listen to a lot of R&B music, so it's like
Mhm.
finding that combination isn't the easiest, but
Yeah. um, you actually asked me about inspirations, and I didn't mention Tyler the Creator, but he is arguably the biggest. And I didn't mention Bo Burnham either. But Bo and Tyler are very big influences. Tyler for how like eclectic and all over the place he is. Like people wouldn't think, but he's a virtuoso on the piano, and he's playing all these crazy synth lines on his songs. Like I just love that fusion of hip hop and jazz and pop and alternative. That's like my wheelhouse, you know.
yeah.
And Bo Burnham is similar to like the David Bowie type of feeling of just I'm gonna be myself and I don't care what people think of it. And I may end up being insanely creative because of it.
Yeah. That's definitely like I feel like that's always a good mindset to have as someone who does music or does art. Just knowing that you're creating more for you than for anyone else.
Yeah. And I always try to break from the mold. Like music that I make, I don't think it sounds like anyone else. People tell me like vague type of resemblances and stuff. People have said that I sound like the Smiths, which I don't hear. I don't hear that. I put out a song called "I Always Will" back in November/February, because there are two versions of it. But people told me it sounded like Morrissey. I was like, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Um, but no, it's so hard to not sound like artists that have come before you.
Yeah.
Best ones kind of subjugate the formula, whatever that means, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the wrong word.
Yeah. I mean, it's also like I feel like no matter what, you're always at least subconsciously influenced by what you're listening to. I feel like people don't always consider that as like a factor, but I don't know. I think about that sometimes. Like even if you don't mean to like kind of shape something after an artist you've been listening to, like subconsciously it does kind of it's there. And yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, a story about that. I got this song called After Today, which will be track 2, I think, on the album when it comes out. As of now, it's track 2, but um, it's one of my strongest songs, I feel, in the sense that it's just like a good riff, a catchy chorus, a solo. You know, it's a simple type of song, but it works well. But I I didn't realize until after I wrote it that the vocal melody, which I also play on a guitar part, is like the same as the girl from Ipanema.
Mm.
Like da 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 da, which is it's hard to avoid because it's just like that interval, you know, in that key. Um, but it was taken by something. But you know, I don't think it's close enough to like lawsuit levels, you
Yeah.
know. What do you think of artists suing other artists because of a resemblance between the two songs?
Honestly, I'm not much of like a law person. I'm not gonna lie. I'm
Yeah,
like I'm actually taking like communication law right now, and I have no idea what's going on. So
cool, cool.
yeah, but I don't know. I feel like if it's not the exact same, if the intention wasn't to steal from the other artists, I can't, I don't feel like a lawsuit is like necessary. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like just trying to get all the money that you possibly can.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, there's not consideration taken for the other party. Like, I remember Yellow Card, who I like. I liked them a lot when I was a kid. Um, they sued Juice World for Lucid Dreams because the da, 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 that melody was in a Yellow Card song in like, I don't know, mid 2000s or something, but it's the same melody, but like Juice World's passed away, rest in peace. And
Mm.
Yellow Card continued on with the lawsuit, like suing his estate and stuff. And that's like, I don't know, it just feels shady, you know?
Yeah. And I also feel like at some point, like it's with all the music that has been made in, history, basically, I feel like there's going to be a time where a melody is repeated and it's not going to be intentional because
Mhm.
in a lot
Yeah.
of like there's a lot of like creative ways to make a melody that's obvious, but it's also like sometimes there is only so many melodies in the world that we can make.
Yeah. I mean, you got 12 notes, and of course, certain combinations are going to come up again,
Mhm.
especially in chord progressions. Like, nobody's suing pop artists for using the same chord progressions. I feel like it's all just in the melody.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. Like you said, it's probably accidental. Like, I doubt Juice World listened to that Yellow Card song and was like, I'm gonna put this in my song
Yeah.
because I don't know how to fill up this verse right here, 4 lines. So let me just steal from another artist. Like, it's like musically, those are the right notes in the right order to
Yeah.
sound good. I don't know.
Yeah. Because I feel like, especially when you get into like the theory side of it, it's kind of like when you start thinking about it very technically, there really is only so much variations that can be done.
Yeah. Yeah. Traditional Western music, like we have, it uses like the whole 12 tone system. Like some Eastern cultures will like play very microtonal type stuff, like in between like an E and an F. Like, I would be interested to see that transfer over to our culture. Um, but someone has to come through and make that happen and
Yeah.
go against the grain.
Yeah.
But yeah, um, no, I really like being a songwriter. I could do some final plugs if you want.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so like I said, Cloud Like comes out early 2022. Leaning on You out Christmas Eve. I'm gonna start putting more work into the YouTube channel. I'm filming a music video for Leaning on You as well. So Harrison Dolan on YouTube. I just did a lyric video for I Always Will. On Quadio, I'm on there at Harrison Dolan or Harrison Dolan Music. Harrison Dolan Music on Instagram and TikTok. And there's one more. Oh yeah, patreon.com/HRDD. I'm putting up a lot of exclusive stuff on there. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I got.
All right.
Grizzlies on Spotify.
Yeah.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, I just want to say thank you for being a part of this. It really does mean a lot to me. And yeah.
Yeah, of course. I would be happy to come back once I get a little bit more accomplishments under my belt.
Well,
And thank you for having me.
yeah, and I actually do plan on at some point starting to do check-ins with the artists that have already been on. So
All right, awesome. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah.
And to all you listening, get your COVID vaccine, please.
Yes.
And that's all I got.